Hey guys, welcome back to Vermont Mapleview Farm. Today we're going to be doing an oil change and tire rotation on the Mrs. 2017 Rubicon Wrangler Recon. We're going to take you through all the steps of doing an oil change and a tire rotation on the Jeep Wrangler. Hey guys, how we doing? Have a good day. First things first, resetting the oil light on these Wranglers. Simple. Key it up, 3 pumps on the gas pedal, resets your oil light back to 100%. We'll get started under the hood. Alright guys, first thing whenever I'm doing an oil change is I just check all the fluids on top: brake fluid, coolant, washer fluid, and power steering fluid. On the Wranglers, 3 out of the 4 are on the driver's side, so we're going to stop and we're going to check those 3 first. Alright, so first things first, we'll check brake fluid reservoir. The easiest thing is to just put your flashlight up to the container. It lets you see through the container. There's our fill lines. So we're within spec. I mean, we're just under the full range. So that's fine for now. Next, come over to the coolant. I know you really can't see with the camera. Coolant level, again, in between the full and the low level. So that's okay for now. And last on this side would be the washer fluid, which we are definitely going to add a little bit more to. Being up here in Vermont, I have learned we use our washer fluid a lot more frequently. So hang on one second, I'll get some washer fluid. All right, so for up here, I've been using the Rain-X. It's a little bit better than your average, gas station washer fluid. I don't know what in it that makes it a better bug remover and everything, which up here, you seem to need a lot more of. And in the winter, it also has a much better ice melt level than the regular stuff. So this is going to be my new go-to all the time, the orange Rain-X. Fill her up. And the last thing we got to check is on the other side. That would be our power steering. So again, the easiest way to check these, most of the reservoirs these days are made out of a plastic material. So the easiest thing to do is just take your flashlight, hold it up. On this one you may actually be able to see they use a transmission fluid for their power steering fluid. So it's a bright red color and you can see it through the reservoir, and we are good to go for there. So now moving on into the actual oil change. In a lot of vehicles, the oil filter is underneath the car. On some of the newer vehicles, including the Wrangler, they top mount the oil filter, which actually makes it kind of nice. So in this case, we just got to pop cover off. Here's our oil filter right down in here. So we're gonna take that out and put the new filter in before we go underneath and drain the oil. How the hell is this thing on here? So for the filter cap removal, it is a 24 millimeter over the top. Oh, and one other thing, guys, not as much in the summer, but definitely in the winter time. You make sure you warm the car up for a little bit so that the oil is closer to operating temperature. It just makes for a better oil change. This is inevitably going to create a little bit of a mess. I'm gonna get the oil pan so that I can pull the filter and just drop it right on top of the pan here. Into the pan. Got our new Mopar filter. So there's no way around getting the old one out besides getting a little bit oily. Let's try to grab it with a paper towel. Pop the old one off. Snap the new one in. And then you just inspect the O-ring gasket. They do give you a new one, but truck's only got 10,000 miles on it. Normally, A, when you see it get completely flattened out, or B, usually at around 15,000 miles. So the next oil change, either way, I would probably switch it out. But for right now, good to go. Back into the thing, and we'll snug her back up. And then the other thing is, on these top mounted ones, like I was just saying about that O-ring, once we finish the oil change, we'll fire the car back up without the cover and just make sure that our O-ring isn't leaking. Let this guy back up. Just a little boop. You don't have to crush them. Now the fun part. Underneath the car, drain the oil. So much easier with the lift. Most of the car world has switched over to metric for almost everything, including most of the other bolts, but for whatever reason, on the Wranglers at least, they have kept with their oil drain plug is still an SAE American half-inch to take the drain plug out. So make sure you don't make that mistake and use a metric, because you have a tendency to strip it. And here's the fun part. We try not to get covered in oil. That's about it, guys, as far as draining the oil. Again, if you let it, it'll run like this for the next 25 minutes, you know, so I let it drain for about 5 minutes, and then it's time to throw the plug back in. Quick little wipe, and while I'm down here, guys, you know, I always take a peek around, make sure nothing looks like it's out of the ordinary. All the brake lines are still where they're supposed to be. Nothing got knocked out of the way from taking it through the woods or anything. While you're under it, always take that opportunity to peek around, make sure nothing else looks like it's not where it's supposed to be or damaged. Back up top, we'll put the new oil back in. Oil on this, the Jeeps go back and forth. Oops. Some of the years on the Wranglers are 530, some of them are 520. It does not call for synthetic oil, but I use synthetic oil like they always say. The difference between synthetic and non-synthetic is you're paying for 2 oil changes at one time, but you get to go twice as far on the oil. So we're going to be using 6 quarts. The Wranglers take 6 quarts of Castrol Edge synthetic 520. And even then, you know, it's good for 6,000 miles. I still change the oil at 5,000 miles. I'm one of those guys. If you're gonna have a vehicle, the one thing that you can do that's more important than anything else to keep it running is to change the oil. After we finish filling it back up, start it up, double check the oil filter, make sure that O-ring isn't leaking, check the transmission fluid. So let's fire it up quick. Take a peek down by the filter here, and if we had a leak, it would be leaking in between where that cap meets the base. All right, everything looks good right there. One thing you got to be careful on these as well, they mount the alternator backwards, so the pulley is actually facing in. If you're not watching, you get your hand caught. All right, let's check the transmission fluid. Right at the bottom of the cold level, which once again, right about where she needs to be for right now. We just fired it back up. It's been sitting for the better part of half hour, 45 minutes at this point. So that's right about where it needs to be. If she had been running for, you know, the past hour or so out on the road, I would expect to see it up by that hot line, but being as, like I said, it was off for the oil change for quite some time, as long as it's reading in the cold, we're good. So we'll shut it off. We'll double check our engine oil, make sure, even though we know it takes 6 quarts, we always double check to make sure everything's kosher and we've got the right amount of oil in the vehicle. And here we go, on the money, right where we're supposed to be at 6 quarts. So that being said, we can put our engine cover back in place and start jacking it up to do our tire rotation. Alright guys, so this was the new tool that I was talking about reviewing, and this is going to kind of be its maiden run on swapping out these tires. So that being said, let's see how she does. Oh, that's nice. All right, guys, on this tire rotation, I know some guys that are watching, mechanics, they're gonna give me flack. I only rotate front to back. I don't crisscross. I don't do side to side. I understand that's a lot of times what the manual says. I've been rotating tires this way for 25 years, and all I can say is I rotate them every 5,000 miles when I do my oil change, and I average between 45 and 49,000 miles out of my tires. So I understand everybody's got their way. This is my way, and it works for me. Take them off front to back every 5,000 miles. I've never had a problem. Another quick thing, guys, not that I think there's going to be any issue, but while you got the tires off, always take a quick peek at your brake pads. You can see, like I said, we've just got 10,000 miles. Still plenty of meat left on these guys, but as a side note, on these Wranglers, for whatever reason, the rears tend to wear out before the fronts, which is kind of reverse of the norm. So if you do have a Wrangler, always keep a peek on the rear brakes. They do have a tendency to wear out first for some reason. Putting them back on, always crisscross pattern. All right, guys, so due to the limited space right now, because I haven't had everything set up, I'm gonna have to take the Jeep out, spin it around just to do the other side, but you get the gist of it. This is one of those videos, again, I know there's a lot of mechanics out there. I know if you have any questions, comments, feel free to, to throw them in the comments section, but this is the way I've been doing it. I've worked in a garage for years on top of carpentry and maintenance and everything else. So I'm always open to everybody's opinions. I hope it helped somebody out today. Thanks, and see you next time from Vermont Maple View Farm.